Okay, I think we have most people. So I'll start now and hopefully more will join shortly. But yeah, thank you everyone for joining us today for this early career webinar on top tips for applying for a job in the sector. I'm joined by my colleague Drew Linus and Catherine Bunting, and we'll do a quick introduction of ourselves. So yeah, I'm Christy Hamilton. I've worked for SIG for 6.5 years now. I used to kind of oversee all the conferences, but I've now moved over to the training program. So that's my main role, which is organising up to 150 training courses per year. Drew, do you want to say something?
Yeah, hi there. Yeah, I'm Drew. I'm the Volunteer Engagement Officer at SIG, so it's my job to oversee all volunteering operations. Within the Institute, we've currently got around 350 active volunteers on our books who all contribute to making sure that the Institute runs smoothly and continues to increase its outreach. But yes, my background's in ecology. I'm a BSc Ecology graduate from the University of East Anglia, so yeah, know a bit about the sector as well.
Thanks, Drew. Catherine?
Hi, my name's Catherine Bunting. I run a recruitment business called Hill and Jago. And for the last 8 years, I've been specialising within ecology and environmental consultancy roles, typically at senior level and above. But I do lots of work as well, helping graduates, early careers professionals with careers advice and coaching.
That's great. Thank you both. Okay, so each of us will have a part in the webinar, but I'll just start with kind of saying what SIG does. So SIG is a professional body for those who study or practice the professions of ecology and environmental management. SIG works to advance the understanding and standards of practice of ecological and environmental management for the benefit of the natural environment and society. We influence ecology and environmental legislation, policy and practice in the UK, Ireland and Europe, and SIG sets the industry standards of competence and conduct. So we have, it says 6,000, but I think we might be more on 7,000 members now. And a large part of our work is keeping up to date with the direction of the industry, political, economical, and legislative demands, helping professionals and training professionals have the skills that they need to work effectively. Here are just a few examples of where our members work in the sector, and it shows the wide ranges of opportunities available in a career in ecology and environmental management. Okay, I'll now hand over to Catherine.
Thanks, Christy. So yeah, as I said, I've been working in recruitment and focusing on the environmental sector for 8 years now. Myself, I'm a passionate environmentalist, which is why I like to support people with building their careers within ecology and the environment. Because from my perspective, tackling the climate crisis and ecological crises that we face, we need you guys to be on the top of your game. Can we go to the next slide, please, Christy? Thank you. So first of all, when you're kind of taking those first steps towards looking at your career, now that you've finished university, I'd like you to have a think about what you want from your career. It can be very easy when you come out of university to feel a bit of a panic to get a job, but just take a little bit of time and think, what is it that you want to be doing? Think about what working environments are going to suit you and will play to your strengths. So have a think about, what do you think are the pros and cons of working for one of the bigger companies? Or how might you navigate a smaller consultancy with kind of, I don't know, maybe 10 to 20 staff? What do you think the main differences will be? And something that you can always do is reach out to people in industry and ask their opinion as well. Just start having a think about what your working life might look like. Also do your research, have a look at what consultancies are in your local area. It's really easy to use Google for that. You're so lucky. So have a look at what consultancies are in your area, build your LinkedIn profile to make it clear that you are looking for a role within ecology or environmental management, and feel really confident in reaching out to organisations that interest you. A big part of a successful career within this sector is being good with people, being able to work with stakeholders, local authorities and so on. So by demonstrating that you're quite confident to reach out to people within organisations and say hello and introduce yourself, that's already helping you on that application to new role ladder. Also, there are websites like Glassdoor out there that you can use to research companies. Always use them a little bit with caution, because I think we all know that if people have a bad experience, they're more likely to record that than if they have a good experience. So sometimes Glassdoor can be slightly biased one way or the other, but it can be a good guide. And if you see a common theme on Glassdoor that concerns you, then you can do a little more research. Or if you see a common theme on Glassdoor that you find quite exciting, you can do a bit more research and see what opportunities certain organisations may give you. You can also use LinkedIn to search for past employees of organisations, and that'll give you a sense of what their staff turnover is. Next slide, please. Thank you. So next step is all about your CV and your application, really. You need to make yourself stand out. So bear in mind, as a graduate, all graduates have a degree, and it can be very easy to, just focus on your academic achievement on your CV. But what really makes you stand out is you as a person. So what makes you different? What's your mission? What aspirations do you have? Talk on the profile at the top of your CV. Talk about what it is you're looking for in a role, because most organisations, they don't just want someone who can come in and do the job. They want someone who's got some real passion about what they're doing. And all the organisations that I know I work with, they're really supportive of people at all levels coming into their companies and helping them move their career on to the next step. Gaining experience. So gaining experience helps you to find your first role, but not everyone is able to spend a lot of time volunteering. I do hear sometimes that there's an expectation to do like 12 months of volunteer work, and that's just not sustainable for everyone. It's lovely if you can do that, but if you can't do that, if you're working in paid roles outside of ecology, that's not a bad thing. It's not negative. Think about the skills that you can use and transfer. So I've spoken to candidates in the past who have worked for Royal Mail or work in Costa, that kind of thing. Those roles really help you with your organisation, with working with people, can give you an insight into marketing and so on. And all of those skills can be beneficial to bring in to a graduate placement. And be organised as well. So as you make applications, track them. I'm a really big fan of an Excel spreadsheet. Track all your applications on there. Track what the role is, where you found it, what date you applied, and find the decision makers in that organisation so that you can follow up those applications and ask for feedback at every stage of the recruitment process. And if you get rejections, don't let them get to you. Each rejection means that you're one step closer to that perfect role. So seek advice from experienced recruiters and industry professionals if you feel that you're getting something wrong. There are always people out there happy to talk to you. And then third, be you. Really try, and it can be very daunting when you're job seeking, and it can affect a lot of people's confidence, but continue to be you. Remember why you studied ecology or environment, what you want to be doing, and you will be an asset to the right organisation. So keep a log of your applications, as we said. Find the decision makers on LinkedIn, link in with them, introduce yourself, follow up applications. If you don't get a response, speak to another decision maker in that business directly, because all organisations value you and the skills that you can bring into the role, but sometimes their processes can let them down. So don't let that get to you personally. Just be proactive and chase these people up. Tailoring your professional profile on your CV to each role can be really beneficial. each organisation will have a slightly different working ethic, different aspirations, different kind of projects that they work on. Look for those differences and have a think, what can I add that I think this organisation will be really excited by? Things that I've done in my past, whether it's something that you did in your as your dissertation, whether it's a piece of volunteer work that you did, or even, as I said, working in a shop or something where you're meeting people face to face and you've demonstrated that you have great people skills, you can influence people, you can deliver bad news, those kind of things. So always tailor your CV. After you've applied to a role, do feel that it's okay to call companies and tell them that you've applied online. You will find that certainly with small to medium sized consultancies, they're unlikely to have a big HR team or a recruitment team. And so their recruitment process generally is managed by people who are ecologists or environmental consultants as their day job. So they're really busy. So if they get a phone call from you to say, I applied a few days ago, just wanted to follow up and check that you've received that, you're demonstrating that you're proactive. It makes you stand out and it makes you memorable. Just don't be too pushy. Remember that, you know, people have really busy lives in and out of work, but just that short, tactful call can be really helpful. And as we said earlier, don't let the rejections get to you. Just seek advice when you need to. Go to the next slide, please. Thank you. Interviews. So how to get your interview right. If you have an online interview, which is really likely, do check your connection, check your laptop in advance or your webcam. Ensure that you have the space behind you completely clear. This sounds like really obvious stuff, but as a recruiter, over the past 2 years, through COVID lockdowns and with all interviews going online, I have had a few really strong, experienced candidates who've messed up interviews because they haven't planned ahead. So I had a candidate rejected from a role because he went through an interview with he was on his phone rather than setting up his laptop, and it was in his lap. And the interviewers spent the whole interview looking at the guy's nostrils, which wasn't particularly pleasant for them. And all the organisations that you're applying to, they will be thinking ahead. When you're experienced, how are you going to come across to their clients? So that kind of error at a more senior level is very hard for organisations to go with. So just have a think. I always recommend standing up if you can for your interviews, because it will just make you come across as a bit more energetic, and you're probably likely to be a little bit more animated. Remember your research. You should have done that before you applied for the role, but again, do more research, know what the company does. Don't read directly off of their website. They don't need to know what year they started, how many employees they have, how many countries they work in. They want to know what your understanding is of what they do and the reality of the projects that you'll be working on. So tell them, I understand that you work on XYZ infrastructure projects. I'm excited by that. I really like XYZ viaduct that's being created for that project. Talk to them about it, really do your research. I'm often asked by candidates, what questions will you be asked in interviews? And the real answer to that is you will never know what questions you're going to be asked. The key thing is that you walk into your interview prepared with some real life scenarios. Ahead of your interview, think about some scenarios where you've faced challenges, something's gone wrong, and you've worked with other people and you've taken responsibility and you've turned that around. So there are lots of different acronyms that people use for this, but it's really about being able to describe what the scenario is, what your part in it was, what responsibility you took, what you did, what the outcome was, and what you learned from that situation, and maybe what you would do differently next time. And I always recommend answering questions wherever you can in that style, even if you're not ask the question in that style, because it can give interviewers more confidence that you've really thought through how you work and you're self-aware. And then at the end of your interview, confirm that you're interested in the role, only if you are, of course, and ask what the next steps will be. Next slide, thank you. And then post-interview, I always recommend sending an email to thank your interviewers for their time. Don't send them War and Peace, just send them a little email saying, thank you so much for your time. If you have any other questions, please let me know. And obviously, if you've got off of your interview and you've suddenly thought of a question you wished you'd asked, ask them in that email as well. That's no problem. Hopefully, it was a great interview, it was a great role for a great company, and you're going to receive an offer. So if that happens, take a couple of days to read through the terms and ensure that you are happy and that you've asked everything that you need to know before you respond. Again, if there are things in your terms and conditions, in your contract that you're unsure of, ask other industry professionals or ask a recruiter or ask an HR person that you're in contact with. It's really important at this stage to remain confidential. Organisations don't want their contracts to be shared with other organisations because that can cause conflicts, but you can speak to people about certain clauses and so on. And if it's something that seems a bit strange to you, just ask, is this normal? It probably will be, but it can help you feel more confident about accepting an offer when you know that you've looked into everything as much as you can. If you receive a rejection, ask for feedback. And something that can be really helpful is ask about the person who was offered the role. What made them stand out? And that will help you in the future. And keep going, don't give up. Searching for a job is a full-time job in itself. So take the occasional day off so that you can go and relax and have some me time. And remember what you're doing, you know, why this career path is so important to you. And again, if you find that you're getting lots of rejections, as I said earlier, ask a recruiter or an industry professional for advice. And when you receive rejections, don't stop being you, carry on being you. There is a role out there for everyone. Just remain positive, keep on track, keep that spreadsheet with a log of your applications, and the right role will come up for you.
Thank you so much, Catherine.
Thank you.
That was really useful. So I'll just move on quickly to a few top tips around covering letters. I would say always write one, definitely. It shows that you're really keen and interested in that role, and take the time to research the company and look at their goals and values. Also read through the job description carefully, just to ensure that you're meeting the criteria and you can emphasize that in your covering letter. It should also be well presented and concise, and a recommendation of how to structure the letter. The first paragraph could be why you're getting in touch. The second one could be about why you are suitable for the job. The third one is what you can do for the company, and conclude by reiterating all of the above, and just showing your enthusiasm to work for them and what you could bring to the role. So yeah, there's just a few top tips there for the covering letter, and I'll hand over to Drew now for his top tips.
Okay, thank you very much, Christy. Yeah, I'm just going to have a quick chat with you about volunteering. As Catherine mentioned, obviously volunteering is one of those things often in this sector that feels like a necessary, necessary hardship, really, in that everyone feels like they have to have some kind of volunteering experience on their CV to make themselves stand out from the crowd. And admittedly, there are a lot of placements out there that are 6 months, 12 months, that kind of thing, which for a lot of people are, let's face it, they are out of reach, because you're going to need some kind of expenses in the background for yourself to cover things often like food, even just a bit of it, spare money for enjoyment and that kind of thing, just for fun things, and not everyone has that kind of saving and resource behind them to make those work for them. However, having said that, it is worth mentioning that the sector is very competitive. particularly if you want to go down the conservation route, particularly with NGOs. So, jobs for like the RSPB, the Wildlife Trust, National Trust, those kind of jobs are extremely competitive, and you get a lot of different people from different backgrounds going for those jobs. So you have to be able to use your time effectively, and think of your time as a really valuable resource, and make sure that you are getting the most out of it, so that you can stand out from the crowd if you're applying for those kind of roles. So worth mentioning, first of all, that Catherine said at the end of her talk, don't stop being you. If you're going to volunteer, make sure that you volunteer for something that you are personally interested in and something that you're going to find fun and rewarding at the end of the day, because there is no point in volunteering for something that you are not motivated for. It is not going to help you. It is not going to help the organisation that you're volunteering for. At the end of the day, hopefully you've got some kind of passion in environmental management or ecology. That might be something really specific. So, for example, for me, I'm a really, really keen birder, and I always have been, and like to volunteer for organisations where there is some kind of birding element to it, and making sure that if there is that kind of element, I'm going to know that I'm going to enjoy the time that I am donating. So that's really important. Think very carefully about the organisation that you volunteer for first, and make sure that's going to be the right organisation for you. Secondly, volunteer with a purpose. So try and make sure that the volunteering role that you undertake has some kind of visible impact. So we'll have something to show for it at the end of the day after the time that you donated. So say, for example, it could be that you're volunteering for doing some practical conservation work, and make sure that you've got some kind of some sort of skill that you've learned, some skill that you've applied, and something that there's a visible outcome. Those are always really, really nice to have those kind of case studies to share, because they often come up as questions at interview and that kind of thing. So it's really good to have that. As I say, pursue a passion. If you are volunteering, try and use that time to perhaps build some connections. If you're volunteering for the right organisation, perhaps one that you may even want to work for one day, volunteering is a really good way to just open and get your foot in the door there. Start building up some connections, start networking with the right people, because as we'll come on to later, the sector is quite often about who you know, rather than what you know, because it's a small sector, a lot of people know each other, and people talk. So yeah, it's a really, really good way to say just getting your foot in the door. But remember that your time is valuable. It's your time that you're donating, and remember there's a huge amount of volunteering roles available out there, some of which will only take an hour a week of your time. Some will take a little bit more, some perhaps even less, and a lot of volunteering roles these days are extremely flexible as well. So it could be something that you could perhaps do from home. It could be something that might involve you going out to a site once a month or something along those lines. So they can be extremely flexible. Most volunteering opportunities will cover reasonable expenses. Worth mentioning in mind if that's a concern for you. Most decent organisations will cover any expenses you shouldn't be out of pocket for any volunteering that you do. So always worth investigating that as well. But say, remember, it's your time that's valuable. If you're picking a role, have a look at the role profile in depth. Have a look at the skills that you might gain from it. Have a look at the skills that you will need to apply to that role. So again, very similar to like a job profile. Say most good organisations will have volunteering role profiles in a similar manner. So always really good to study those before you commit to a role, to make sure that you're going to get everything that you want out of that role. You're going to have some visible impact to show for your time, and you might learn some new skills or be able to apply some skills. So lots of really good stuff to consider around volunteering. Hopefully that was useful. Onwards to Christy again, I think.
Thanks so much, Drew. Yep, back to me. So I'm just going to talk a little bit about CPD, so continuing professional development, and it can help you to build up an array of skills that can then help you with your career and pursuing a career in the sector. So yeah, you can develop skills and knowledge further to progress your career. These include attending national conferences, and if you're a member of SIEM, you can enter into prize draws to receive a free place at them. And again, like Drew said, it's a good way to network and meet people in the sector that can help with your career path. We also have geographic sections, which cover the whole of UK, Ireland, and they organise talks, workshops, seminars, field trips and social events. And again, they provide numerous opportunities for you to network, but Drew can explain more about those a bit later on. So if we talk about the different types of CPD, there are quite a few out there. So anything on this page can kind of cover CPD. If you keep a blog, if you do your own research, if you teach or participate in lectures, online research, networking. So there's a wide range of things that you can do that can help build up that CPD portfolio to support your career development. What else can you do? So you can also access articles and keep up to date with current topics. SIG have a publication called In Practice, which is a good way to do that. We also provide guidance documents and share best practice for surveying and practice methods covering a wide range of species and habitats. These are invaluable sources of good practice and industry guidance. We also have an annual awards ceremony, which celebrates and champions members who are working on innovative projects. So don't forget to put forward your student project for the next awards ceremony. We also have bite-sized online webinar sessions, just like these, which help to ensure that you have key updates from presenters who are experts in their field. And finally, we also have an online tool, so to keep track of the CPD that you're participating in, and help to keep a record of any professional development that you can build on whilst at university and beyond. So I'll hand over to Drew again, who can talk about our member networks.
Yeah, thank you, Christy. So you may have come across these if you're sort of an active SIG member, but if you're not, I'll give you an introduction. So we have a series of members groups. They are specifically meant to be a member benefit, so an opportunity for SIG members to get involved with the ecologist and environmental manager community in and around them. Focused on either geographic sections or perhaps a particular topic of interest. So at the moment, Scotland, the island of Ireland and Wales all have their own groups, and also England is split up into a series of regions. These groups are entirely volunteer-led. So they're made up of a committee of up to 16 volunteers, and it's their role to organise events for their local member area that they cover, area or country, to connect members together, to showcase fantastic, perhaps conservation or environmental management initiatives or case studies. To highlight good practice. They'll also do other things, for example, writing in practice articles for us, say about brilliant work in their area, get involved in local policy consultations, and crucially, they'll also promote the sector to students and early careers members to try and showcase what a career in the sector might look like potentially. All of the volunteers that run these groups are people who are currently professionals in the sector, and they could be from a wide range of areas. They could be from academia, they could be from consultancy, they could be from conservation, they could be from a private NGO, it could be from anyone. So it's a really, really good way of meeting lots of people who are currently active in the sector, a really good way of networking, and yeah, working on some fantastic connections, which will hopefully get you to where you want to be. So whenever you see member network events advertised, do see if they're in your area or on a topic of interest, and do just get involved just as a member. You can go onto the My SIG part of our website, and you can update your personal preferences on there. You can tick boxes for which regions you'd like to hear from, regions or countries, as well as any of our special interest groups you might want to hear from as well. So we've got one that is focusing on ecological restoration and habitat creation, so that's like essentially a rewilding special interest group. We've got another one focusing on marine and coastal ecology. There's one focusing on UK overseas territories, if going further abroad sounds like something that might be of interest to you. Lots of opportunities to work with penguins and albatrosses and stuff on that one. So yeah, really, really good groups to get involved with. So yeah, do have a look and update your preferences if you want to hear from them, and do get involved with their events, because you can isolate member network events specifically when searching for upcoming events on the SIAM website. So do have a look if there's anything of interest to you on there. Next slide, please. Thank you. Yes, and as part of our member networks opportunities for anyone who is a SIAM student member, each one of our member networks and special interest groups, there is one volunteering position available for a student representative. So this is specifically for a SIAM student member. And it would be your role, if you were to take on this, to get actively involved in the committee. It would be really good to help the committee organise some fantastic student events in the region or country that you might be representing, trying to encourage the committee to go into universities, perhaps to careers fairs, that kind of thing, to talk to students about life in the sector. It would also be your role to represent the views and voice of students and early career members in your regional or country or particular topic of focus, if there's a special interest group you'd be involved with. And also there's plenty of opportunity to contribute to in-practice articles, blog items, all that kind of thing. But yeah, fantastic experience, fantastic way of networking and building up those connections. A really good volunteering opportunity for anyone that is keen and could hopefully progress your career and provide that valuable foot in the door for you. So yeah, do get involved if you're interested. All of the student representative roles that are available will be on the My SIAM website under volunteering opportunities. Thank you. And yeah, just to highlight a new, brand new special interest group we've launched this year. This is an early careers special interest group, so it's specifically targeting early careers SIAM members, but also anyone who's not a SIAM member and any early careers as well is welcome to get involved. The purpose of this group is mainly in the area of peer support, so it's a chance for people who have just started in their career in the sector to share with each other the challenges, but also the fantastic opportunities they might have had going forward, and hopefully share best practice and share some really good ideas with each other. It's a really good opportunity, as I say, to raise awareness of issues affecting early careers ecologists and environmental managers, but crucially celebrating the achievements of those early careers members as well, because just because you're just starting out, you'll still be able to achieve an awful lot, and it's really, really good to highlight that from the new people coming into the sector. It's also a really good platform to provide a much stronger voice for those in their early careers, because it can be quite hard to be heard if you're only just starting and you want to really influence the sector. So the idea of this is, say, to group everyone together who's in their early career and yeah, really provide that strong voice to create positive change in the sector, make sure that early careers members are treated much more fairly and get equal development for opportunity and that kind of thing. So opportunity for development and that kind of thing. And yeah, that SIG will lead webinars and online socials specifically for early careers members to connect them all together. So please do get involved with that special interest group. It'd be fantastic to hear from you. And yeah, it'd be really good if you can get involved in some of those events.
Thanks, Drew. So I'll just talk a little bit about our training program. So another way for you to kind of build up a portfolio of skills is to attend some of our training. So we do a wide range of training courses. Many are at beginner level. They're classroom or field-based. A lot are online now as well. And if you are a SIAM member, you can access these for reduced rates. And again, yeah, they all contribute towards your CPD. And a full list of our courses can be found on the website. Okay, so if you're not already a student member, hopefully we've convinced you to be one. So it's only £27 a year, and you receive all of the benefits that we've spoken about today. It provides a chance for you to enhance your CV and improve your employability. And actually, many employers in the sector have been specifically asking if you're a member or are eligible to become a member of SIAM, and they can ask for this information in the job description. So yeah, it's a good thing to have on your belt as well. And like we've all said, there's a lot of opportunities that can provide opportunities for you to meet and network with other practitioners at SIAM at a national, regional and local events. So yeah, please do get in touch with our membership team if you're interested in signing up. And I think that concludes all of us. So we'll now open it up to questions. So if you do have any questions for any of us, please do pop them in the Q&A and we will happily answer them. So I'll stop sharing and we can all pop our videos on. We do have Saz here from our membership team as well. Hi, Saz.
Hi, everyone.
Yeah, so hopefully you found that really useful. Please do ask any questions. If none come to mind now, we can always drop us an email and we can answer them later on.
It's worth saying as well that everyone who's attending this webinar is already above and beyond the competition right now. I mean, we had 150 people booked onto this, but we've only had sort of 24 or so people actually attend. So the fact that you are following through with those agreements is fantastic. Yeah, keep it up, and yeah, you're in the right direction. You lot, definitely.
All can be recorded as even CPD, Drew, can't it? As well, all this sort of things that you're doing. It's all can be recorded down, and yeah,
definitely. Oh, we do have a question come in. So Saz, I think this one's for you. Does membership run annually from the date of payment, or is it best to start on a particular date?
Yeah, so this is where it's easier to come on and possibly explain it a bit. So our membership year runs from the 1st of October to the following year. So 1st of October to 30th of September every year. If you become a qualifying member, which is an early career grade, so if you're no longer studying and you have finished and you're no longer on the course, your qualifying membership means that you could join as a member and fill out an application form, and then we kind of give you a kind of prorated amount. So it would mean you only pay for kind of what's left of the subscription year, and then we'd ask you to pay again so that you've got a renewal for the 1st of October. With regards to student membership, which if you are studying on a course, you can join, and that student membership is something where you need to consider your costs at this kind of time of year. Because of our renewal period is coming up, you just need to be aware that if you are currently studying and you're going to be studying next year, it might be worth you joining in September, because that's when you would get a full year of membership. So it's anyone we can admit in September then gets a full year. If someone was to sort of submit an application for student membership sooner than that, we'd have to tell them that actually, you're going to have the summer, but we would ask you again to be paying in October. Some people might not have a choice because actually they've just studying now and they need to get their application form in quick because actually they're going to graduate and finish their course. But for student membership, yeah, you need to be currently studying. Qualifying membership is something that you just need to engage with what is our kind of competency framework. That's something that Catherine picked up on, like all your transferable skills and all your technical skills that you might be getting. That's those skill areas that you just need to sort of pick up on for a qualifying membership application form. But any more questions about that, like, yeah, put them in the chat, Q&A, or email membership@saim.net if you actually do want to become a member of SAIM, if you think that might help you and boost your CV a bit.
Thanks very much, Saz. Yeah, quite a few questions coming in now. So for one from Carla, hi, I have a science degree and did my master's as a mature student in molecular biology. I'm really interested in pursuing a career in ecology. Should I consider more study, or is volunteering a better route? That's a tricky one. Drew, did you want to take that?
So I'm just rereading the question here. So I have a science degree and did my master's as a mature student in molecular biology. I'm interested in pursuing a career
More study
in
or
ecology.
volunteering? Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Good question. So my advice, if you want to pursue a career in ecology, and particularly as an ecologist or ecological consultant, from a consultancy perspective, it's much easier to teach things like survey skills, GIS, that kind of stuff. It's much easier for them to teach that in-house than perhaps it would be teaching field skills. So that's, for example, identification, the basic sort of keys behind being a naturalist. So there's a very high demand, for example, right now, in the sector for things like botanists, for birders as well, for people that know invertebrates also. There's a lot of survey work and that kind of thing involved in that bats too. So my advice would be try and work on your field skills, and volunteering might be a really, really good way of doing that and being able to showcase that you can do that. Also, so obviously SIE membership will show, depending on what level you can get to, of the amount of field skills that you've built up through the work that you've done. So yeah, my advice to you, I think, would be to try and build up those practical skills, perhaps through volunteering rather than more study at this point. The only advantage I could see to study is if you perhaps wanted to go down an academia kind of research type route in ecology. That might be useful to you to set apart the competition. But to say, if you want to be back out in the field, yeah, I would recommend spending some time volunteering in the field to showcase that you're comfortable with that. Because you'll find when you go and work for a consultant, perhaps their for example, their GIS software that they use might be different to what you actually use when you're in training at university. So they would have to teach people that anyway when you come in. So yeah, that would be my advice. Hopefully that's useful.
Thanks.
Sometimes a really hard one, because I think it's a bit of a safety net as well, because it's what you've known, and studies kind of what you have known, what you've done, and it's that structure to it. And I sometimes been at kind of British Ecological Society careers conferences that they run, and people have said then, really, what should I be doing as well? And I think it's like Drew said, for your own, it's really just weighing it up, whether that cost, what you can and can't afford, because obviously you need to afford being able to study, and then if you're volunteering, maybe not getting as much money in that way. But I think also, trying to reflect and look ahead a bit as well, because it's like, like Drew's thinking, what are those skills? So looking at maybe some job profiles that you might want to be going into before you sign up for a course. So say some job profiles might be like, oh, actually, what are the skills they're actually asking for now? Even if you're not going to apply now, just look at those job profiles to see what skills they're kind of asking, and then align that to maybe if the course is going to give you that or not as well. Because I think that's what I kind of sometimes get feedback and hear about. But Catherine, I don't know if you might be able to add a bit more.
I was thinking of it the same way as you, actually. I would be looking at the kind of organisations that you would be working with your science background, and looking at what opportunities those organisations have for ecology. And that would probably be a good way for you to work your way into that slight career sidestep.
Yeah.
That's great. Yeah, Carla's come back to say thanks. That's really helpful. She's been weighing up taking an MSc versus some FSc ID courses and volunteering.
Yeah, I think the backbone of that is have a look at the role profiles you'd be applying for. Is masters an essential thing? Is that the kind of level of academic qualification they're looking for? If it's not, and you do take the masters, you may end up finding yourself in the same boat anyway, in that everyone else applying for it also has a masters, and it might not particularly separate you from the crowd in the way that the recruiter is looking for.
Yeah, so, and some of those initial field skills, if it is the field studies council that you might be able to be going with.
Yeah, absolutely. And particularly some of those entry level, ecology consultancy jobs. I know people who've got into that. Well, I think we probably all do know people who've got into that who haven't actually got any academic qualifications in ecology, but have actually just built up their time through through experience. Admittedly, a lot of that comes through, say, voluntary stuff to begin with, and I understand that's not ideal for a lot of people, but that is a routine. Yeah,
and that's a lot of a membership, or even the way people sometimes you apply for jobs. It's now competency based, so it's going on these transferable and technical skills that I kind of just quickly mentioned in our framework.
But again, it's still sorry, Saz, it's still largely about who you know as well. So there's a lot of people who don't have those academic qualifications, but they have the connections through a hobby, through an interest that they've pursued, and therefore people who are recruiting know that person's got the skill that they're looking for.
Also, a volunteering opportunity could lead you to a paid opportunity within an organisation. So okay, that's great. Thanks, everyone. One here from Jack. Besides the usual Indeed, LinkedIn, checking company websites, what's the next best way to look for job opportunities? I personally looked on environment job. I find that really useful. So when I was looking for a job, I would check that every single day, and just if there was a job that came up that really spiked my passion, I would apply for it. So that, yeah, that's where I usually look. Is there, Catherine, anywhere else that you'd recommend?
Yeah, so I find as a recruiter, the majority of the roles that I fill are not yet advertised. So I actually recommend not relying on adverts going out there, be more proactive than that. So yeah, registering with a good recruiter who knows the sector is really beneficial, but also following people on LinkedIn, find out who are the people who are going to be posting that there are adverts in their organisation, follow those people. Also, when you do your research to find out what kind of organisations you think you want to work for, so say, for example, it's Atkins, you can set up an alert. It's called Watch That Page. And you can set up an alert on their careers page. So every time there's a change on there, you'll get an email to inform you straight away. And that gets you ahead of the competition.
Yeah, that's really good advice, and I can't beat that. but I can say one thing that's happened to me through personal experience that might be useful. So I went along to an interview for a conservation NGO and didn't get the job. However, when I was there, I did ask them when I was physically at the interview, if there is a chance I don't get this, is there anything else that you know of that's coming up? And just taking advantage of that opportunity, they then told me about a job, and they said that based on my interview that I'd just done, I could potentially be a good candidate for that. Then went on to get that job. Yeah, it happens. It's always worth that ask when you're there in person, definitely.
Yeah, and just on that, signing up, if you've got a particular company that you're interested in, you could sign up to their job listings and get adverts straight into your inbox. So that's another good way.
And rely on your friends as well. If you've got a couple of friends who you studied with who've found roles and you haven't, ask them if there are other roles in their organisation, because if they refer you, they are probably going to get a little bonus as well. And but it can be easy to forget that, because human nature, we don't tend to refer our friends whilst we're still searching for a role. And then when you start in a new role, you're so focused on getting up to speed that you may forget that your friends are still looking. So just keep in touch with people who've just found a placement.
That's great. Thank you both. Okay, another question. Sorry, there's someone chatting in the Q&A. Are GIS and database skills a particularly sought after thing in the industry?
I would say so.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
Definitely. It's always a bonus. A lot of the roles that I have, it may not be an actual requirement, but it's always a bonus to have it. So if you get the opportunity, absolutely take hold of that and learn GIS.
I think I remember just in my personal experience, before I joined SIG, I found that actually it wasn't just, I go out in the survey and go out in the field. I actually did a lot of database collation. I ended up having to look after the lab samples that they were doing and coming in and out. And actually they sort of twigged on that, actually database, there's a lot of database stuff going on in where I was working. And there's lots of sort of pre-survey checks that had to be done, a lot of using potentially that's where GIS might have helped, and kind of mapping out areas that where these surveys were actually happening. So it was some graduate work that I'd done in a consultancy that really was that database, and possible if I'd have done a GIS module would have probably helped. And
I think if you have GIS ability, even if it's not needed in a graduate role, it gives organisations, whoever is in charge of hiring, the confidence that you've got the ability to grow into something else with them.
Yeah,
that's great. Thank you. Question here. Hi, thank you for a very informative session. My question is, how valuable is work experience from outside of the UK? And does that count? Do employers in the UK take that experience into consideration? I have about 10 years of ESIA and environmental consulting experience from Pakistan. Can I apply to jobs at a mid-career level, for example? Catherine's nodding.
So it's a challenging one. The smaller to medium-sized consultancies, I think that may be a challenge, and you may need to spend some time gaining UK working experience, because a big part of your role will be working with local authorities, understanding UK legislation, regulations, and all those things, which takes a little bit of time. So if you're looking at the smaller to medium-sized consultancies, you may need to consider starting at more of an entry level, but hopefully fast-tracking your career. Where I've seen that scenario work really well is with the bigger multidisciplinary consultancies, because they have more international work. So they would probably take your experience in Pakistan as a bonus and apply that to some projects where you would be able to work at a more senior level, whilst also enabling you to get up to speed on UK projects. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's great. Thank you, Catherine. So a question here from Ali. Would broader qualifications help in applying for roles as an ecologist? For example, I will be getting certified as a PMP project manager later this year as part of my current paid role. Would this be useful in an ecologist role?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Transferable skills, isn't it? Surely
Exactly,
that comes under that bucket. So yeah, absolutely.
It's an added bonus, definitely.
And I think if you're then even wanting to sort of big yourself up that you might have done that, you can try and translate it into a way that it might help ecology as well, even in certain, sort of if you've got to an interview or something, to say this, I've done this, and this is how I could bring this to the, to this kind of role or something. Because it's a really good transferable skill. And even that kind of previous question about international experience, it's like, well, how does it possibly translate to the UK legislation and UK projects? Trying to make sure, that you kind of can, sort of say what it could do for them if you get to that stage.
I think it can help with future progression as well. If you look to become an environmental manager and go down that route, that will definitely help support that. Okay, question here from Ashley. I've noticed a lot of ecology and environmental job posts explicitly requiring knowledge of habitat directives, EU directives, etc. How do you achieve this if you are not currently working in the sector but wish to or are looking to?
And my first question would be, have we got any SIM training courses on that kind of thing that would cover that?
Potentially, yes. If not, I'll do my best to get some in there. Yeah.
Yeah, there'll be something to come with bits of it. I think when it's asking for knowledge of habitat and EU direction, stuff like that, you can gain a lot of that by actually just getting involved in the work through particularly through volunteering and that kind of thing. It's a good way of picking that up. No one expects you to know all of it, it's just good to know specific parts of it that might apply to a role that you're going for. You could, for example, relate a bit of work that you've done through volunteering, for example, perhaps an area of habitat management or something. You could apply it to when you're writing your covering letter, how it might apply to an element of the EU habitats directives. There's no set qualification to kind of tick that box to say you understand it. You're just, like most people, pick and take the elements that you need from it, would be my advice.
Also, even if you don't kind of possibly understand it yet and stuff, if for SIM, one of the member benefits would be policy briefing. We do SIM does a lot of work in the policy field and policy areas and working to bring new kind of feeding into consultations that bring about new legislation and those sorts of things. So our little sort of policy briefing, even if it's possibly just you know sort of reading about what's going on and knowing what these kind of you know what these kind of legislations that things are based on, and some of the directives that way, and how they've come about or how they might have changed, and possibly even just a bit of reading as well around it. And if we send this policy briefing out, that's a sort of way of getting involved in that policy side of the environmental ecology work.
Yeah, definitely. I was going to say a bit of work shadowing and looking out for internships potentially. Maybe with SIEM in the future, who knows? Our policy team may have some available that you could get involved with.
I think one of the things I'd add is don't focus too much on the parts of the role profile that you can't do. If there are 8 bullet points and you can carry out 7 of those, talk about those 7 and talk about the fact that you are a proactive, committed person who will spend time getting up to speed on what you don't know. Don't not apply for roles because there's a small area of the role profile that you don't feel confident about.
Yeah, absolutely. Realistically, there probably won't be an applicant that ticks every single box, will there? There just won't be. Yeah.
Is it worth being honest about that on your application to say, yeah, I'm not up to speed, or I'd like to learn more and progress in this area?
Yeah, I would be clear that you know enough about it, that you have an understanding of what the subject matter is, but be realistic that, yeah, this is something that I'm aware of, but I don't have any working knowledge of. I would be really happy to get myself up to speed.
Yeah. That's great. Thanks, everyone. So we've got one more in the Q&A. I have been working for an environmental consultancy for a few years, but not in ecological aspect. Is it possible that I can change to the ecological aspect, even though I don't have much skills on that? Yeah, definitely. I think, like we were saying earlier, you just need to build up those portfolio of skills and do the right training. Like, SIEM provide a lot of training that could help build up your skills. We have an early career training program that's kind of specifically designed for those that are looking to become an ecologist or environmental manager. So you could take a look and see if that might be helpful.
Again, I think it's taking a look at the role profiles, that one, having an idea of what it is that you perhaps want to do, which skills you can definitely see as transferable, and which ones you think actually in my environmental management consultancy work I haven't come across this before. Then maybe SIEM training might be the way to fill in the gaps there.
Yeah, exactly. Look at what an ecologist needs and the training that you need to get there. Go on, Sam.
No, carry on, Christy. Yeah.
Oh no, just a quick one. I know that Hampshire Wildlife Trust do kind of ecology traineeships that you can take on for a year, build up the skills that you need, and then potentially go on to be an ecologist. Yeah, and get a job in the sector.
I say, if you've got 10 years in environmental consultancy, I wouldn't sell yourself short either.
Yeah.
For you.
I was transferable in there. Yeah.
I was wondering also if you're in the employment and that company does ecology within there is an ecology team, just potentially get in touch. You don't have to say it's because you don't like your current job, and that's it just could just be, I'm really interested in the work you do as a team. Could you tell me more? Could we have a lunch chat or something? If there's people like just reaching out to like that company, because I know there's was different branches, and I was kind of put as an ecologist, was put with something that I'd never even heard of. It was like an engineering thing, but it was really interesting, and they mapped out pipes under, and that engineering side that I then was asking about. So it kind of, if you just potentially reach out to a team if you have got that team in your organization already.
That's actually something we've missed in this webinar, that SIEM have a mentoring platform. So if you are a member with us, you can access members in the sector with a variety of backgrounds, and meet up with them, chat with them, and they can guide you in the direction that you want to go in. I think we've answered them all.
There's a few in the chat still, Christy, but not in the Q&A. But
yeah, I think Alison was saying, do you have any top tips for someone who is looking to retain as an ecologist?
I think retrain, possibly retrain rather than retain.
Oh yeah, I think so, because they have an ecology degree from 15 years ago.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think you may need to retrain and look to build up those skills again. Okay, anyone else I've missed?
I think with also just to sort of, because I come from that membership team perspective of SIEM, but I'm wondering if something like if you kind of need the support of SIEM at all, and as much, you know, there are professional bodies, but if you thought actually SIEM was kind of something that, you know, that ecology focus is what you really want to go back to doing, that qualifying membership means you could kind of get involved and sort of look at what competencies you're really interested in. So our qualifying membership isn't to sort of prove or demonstrate that you've got skills, it's actually what you're interested in and just telling a bit about yourself. You give us a personal statement, but you don't actually have to be a member to use the self-assessment tool. We've got a self-assessment tool as well on our website. I think just searching self-assessment, and that's all these different competencies that are related to the ecological environmental management sector that's in the SIEM competency framework. So you could kind of just see, well, actually, where am I? Am I kind of at this kind of possibly a higher level in sort of some of the transferable skills that you're going to be, but actually maybe at more of a basic level in the sort of technical skills. And then if you want to get involved with SIEM, and qualifying membership might be something that then you can then link to some of the courses that these guys had mentioned, if that's then helpful to sort of get a bit more training.
That's great. Thanks, Saz. I think that brings us to the end. I can't see any more questions. Please let me know if I've missed
There's
any.
one more right at the end, which might be a nice one to finish on. It's from Phoebe that says, thanks for a really informative session. I would love to know your best advice for getting your foot in the door of this sector, which is probably a nice one to finish on. I mean, my advice on that one would be networking. 100% is networking. It's who you know. Try and get in touch with any potential companies or any potential NGOs, charities, that kind of thing that you might consider working for. Just try and get to know some of the people in that, and that could be, you know, through a volunteering role. It could just be literally sticking your head through the door and saying, hello, I'm so and so, I might potentially be interested in working for you one day. But you know, just getting those contacts in your books is definitely the best way of doing it. And if you're struggling to get, you know, a full-time role to begin with, if perhaps you know, an ecology consultant type route is one to go for, you know, don't shy away from taking on even a short-term contract, because a short-term contract can lead to a longer-term contract, which can lead to a full-time job. So yeah, that would be my advice. But it's all about who you know.
Definitely. That's how I'm in my job today. I interned for a small charity, and that led me onto a paid role, which then led me onto this job. So yeah.
And I think also I liked when hearing Catherine was like, just keep going, don't give up, and don't get as disheartened, because things can be advertised and they already know that they might be going internally and stuff. So yeah, just like be yourself, because yeah, you can get there. And I just think, yeah, you just trying to have that positive outlook on it, and not feeling too disheartened. That, I think, was from Catherine, something that I think, yeah, I would have looked back and would have applied to myself a bit more.
Yeah,
absolutely. And you know, most people who are making hiring decisions, one of the most important things for them is that they're interviewing someone that they feel they're going to work well with, that there's going to be good two-way communication, and this person comes across as someone who's going to take responsibility. If something goes wrong, they're going to use some initiative, they're going to speak to me at the right time, they're going to listen. And it's a lot of those softer skills actually that are required. If you show that you have all of those through the recruitment process, most employers will say, well, they miss X, Y, Z in their technical skills, but we can train those because they're the right kind of person.
They've got that aptitude for that area to go into, but yeah, it's those personal skills.
that's great. We do have a couple more. Should we just answer two more and then we can, yeah? So one for you, Saz. At this point in the year, is it better to apply for qualifying membership than student membership? I am a student finishing my program in September.
So in terms of you're missing out and not being able to get straight away involved. However, monetary, I think that's a massive thing for you and for people, you know, that early in their career, because qualifying membership is quite a hard one to explain with the timings and what I tried to say earlier. if you are going to think actually student membership's just a way in and just something that I want to see what SIM's more about, and it's £27, getting involved and getting student membership and just getting on board and just sort of opening the door a bit, that's £27 and that's now. And then you would upgrade to sort of the qualifying level. If it's not something that, and you've got to factor in your cost, and it's not something, because of our renewal period that we do have, and we would ask for money as of the 1st of October again to cover the kind of 2022-23 subscription year, you might just want to come in as a qualifying member, and then you start getting engaged a bit with the competency framework. And actually it might be a bit more of a helpful process for you, because you are coming to the end of your studies, and then you can actually think, well, what did I learn? Just thinking about some competencies, and it's just talking about yourself. And actually it's quite handy just to keep that in case you then do go for jobs, because actually we ask on the qualifying membership form for 2 statements, just how you are engaged in the sector. It doesn't have to be working at all, it just could be volunteering, or you've just studied it, or you've just got an interest and a passion. And then the second statement is just how would you think you want to get to these skills that we're asking you to think, maybe oh, I'd like that area, or I like that area, and just talking about how you might be able to get there and what you want to do, or just even by then reading sort of benefits of reading things that we send you, and making the most of benefits of SIM. So maybe qualifying membership, if you are coming to the end of your course and end of your studies, qualifying membership is then more suitable. That is £74. So that's why I wanted to sort of kind of bring up costs for people, because appreciate that you've got to consider that. But it's, if you haven't quite answered it, membership@sim.net gets you through to myself and the membership team, who can kind of give you any more info about which kind of grades best and your circumstances right now. But yeah, that's hopefully helpful.
There's a question from me around that. If you became a student member now, you have that for the next year?
No,
that's okay. So
literally September. If you apply now, because we can turn a form around and that is done, you only have it for a couple of months, and we ask to pay again. So it's when you're admitted and you come in September and get admitted in September, that's when you get a whole year's worth. So that's why it kind of telling people to consider the cost, because people go, actually that's a lot to pay now and then again. But some people, they're still studying now, they want to get involved, and it's something they're doing and they can do. And
you can be a student member for 12 months post-study?
Yeah, that's right. So you have to be studying on your course to be able to be a student member. And then what happens is after a year, so once you've completed it, up to a year after that, you are invited to come and stay as a student member, because it's that kind of possible limbo year where you know considering what to do. It might be considering you're going back to study, or you might be considering what to do job wise. So we give that kind of, tries to be a bit more supportive in having that year after completion of your studies to stay a student member. And it's £27 per subscription year for student membership. It's a kind of thing to think about, and then take in costs. And if you don't know, just give us an email or a call and we'll try and help you.
That's great, thank you, Saz. Just one more that we'll end on. Hi all, just wondering if you guys have any advice on where to find remote environmental and ecological research jobs, as driving is a desired skill that most jobs ask for, but I never learnt. I mean, I would say still apply for that job, even if you don't have a driving license. There might be kind of car share opportunities available, or just make the employer aware that you don't have that, but you might be interested in learning. Can they support with that? Any other advice?
Ringing up as well, couldn't you? If you see it on a job advert, ringing up and say, what does this mean? Is it straight away that I need to do this, or when? And sorry, Catherine, I think you'd probably be able to come in.
So there are consultancies in London who only do surveys and so on using public transport. I work with a few organisations like that, so that is possible. Some of the bigger consultancies as well will have desk-based researchers, so that is possible. I would also say that you need to be aware that if you want to get survey experience, being able to drive probably is going to be important for you at some time. And it's an interesting one, because I've spoken to a few graduates over the last few years who don't want to drive from an ethical perspective. They just, they want to be able to move away from that. So I totally get that. But it may be something that you'll have to think about, whether you might want to use a moped or motorbike or something. But if you want those field skills, you will need to think about getting out in the field. And also COVID taught us that car shares we can't take for granted. So just really weigh up, what is it that you want to be doing? How important is that to you? There are options that you can do remotely, but if it's the field skills things that you're really focused on, you might need to think about how to get yourself around.
I think the reality is that some of the sites that they send you to, there is just no alternative. We wish there was. There just isn't an alternative to driving, unfortunately. But as Catherine said, there are lots of jobs in the sector, lots and lots of jobs in the sector, which don't involve any driving at all. They could be, desk based. They could be still getting out in the field, but as I say, through public transport. So there's lots of options out there. So just if environmental concerns are one of your main drivers, and you think, actually, I'm not driving for climate change reasons, and that's entirely understandable, there will still be lots of roles out there for you. And also those that do rely on using cars for their work right now, they are thinking about how they can adapt most of their practices so that the only times you'll be driving is when it is 100% necessary, and there is no alternative, because they're all trying to move in that direction, which is great. So hopefully that helps.
My experience was quite a long time ago, but just personally, they recruited a few graduates at the same time. There was 2 of us had a car, and then one of us didn't. One of them couldn't drive, and actually, then it kind of, for me, it was actually like, well, I didn't need a car as such. I just needed to learn I needed to have learned to drive. And luckily, I did it by just by that job. And then they got hire cars, so I was then put into sort of hire cars. Even though that you think, well, it might be under 25. I was using hire cars. So then there was a scenario where I didn't actually have access. You didn't have to have access to your own car, which is very expensive to possibly. That's the thing it's the upkeep of a car, affordability of actually getting a car. But I realized I could have, just being able to have driven. Luckily, I got my license in time. I then was okay because they actually gave you the cars or vans to drive around in. And yeah, like Drew said, assess surveys to see if you could actually get there by public transport.
Yeah, because I've got some people registered with me who, for example, live in London, so don't want a car because the congestion charge just makes it completely infeasible. It's unaffordable, and the companies they work for will hire them a car if they need to go outside of London or outside of major cities.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, if you're based in somewhere like London, hopefully, public transport is a really good option that a lot of companies make use of. If you live in Norfolk like me, good luck.
Good birds though, Drew. You've got good birds, so yeah.
That's
way up.
You're there. Okay, that's brilliant. Thank you so much, everybody. We've had so many lovely comments on how useful everybody's found this. So that's really great to hear. And massive thank you to Catherine for joining us today, and Drew and Saz.
Yeah, no, thanks, Drew. Thanks to Drew, because he's helped out on something I couldn't do.
Thank you for inviting me. It's been really good.
Oh no, it's been great to have you here. Thank you. I think everyone's found it really useful.
It's really nice to hear from a perspective that you're in it and amongst it, Catherine, and really helpful for hearing. Yeah.
So we have recorded today, and I'll share the recording with everybody and watch whenever you would like to. And we'll leave it there, and we hope you enjoy the rest of your day, and thank you all very much.
Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.